Chapter 1: The Proposal of Deception. The walls of the Carter family home felt smaller every day. Bills piled on the dining table like a growing mountain of despair. Their father, once a proud businessman, sat hunched in his chair, his eyes vacant. Their mother, fragile and pale, coughed softly in the next room. Lena Carter clenched her fists. She had been the responsible twin, the one who always put family first. But no matter how many extra shifts she worked at Blackwood Industries, it was never enough. They were drowning, and she had no lifeline left. Then came the offer. Damian Blackwood, her powerful and ruthless CEO, had called her into his office after hours. His cold blue eyes appraised her like a contract waiting to be signed. "I'll pay off everything, your father's debts, your mother's medical bills," he said smoothly, sliding a document toward her. "All you have to do is marry me." Lena's breath caught. "What?" "It's a business arrangement, nothing more." He leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "You'll be my wife in name, but you will remain my employee. No expectations, no emotions." Lena's mind raced. Why her? Why now? "What's in it for you?" she asked. Damian's lips curved into a smirk. "You don't need to worry about that." Every instinct told her to say no. But then she thought of her mother's frail condition, her father's shame, and the endless calls from debt collectors. This was the only way. Lena exhaled sharply and grabbed the pen. "Fine," she said, signing her name. "I'll marry you." The night before the wedding, Lena overhears Damian on the phone. His voice is low, urgent. "She has no idea," he murmurs. "Eva, it's always been Eva." Chapter 2: The Wedding from Hell. Lena Carter had always imagined her wedding day to be filled with love, warmth, and the kind of joy that made people cry happy tears. But as she stood in the grand cathedral, staring into the unreadable eyes of Damian Blackwood, all she felt was dread. The words she had overheard the night before, his whispered confession about Eva, echoed in her mind like a cruel joke. She has no idea. It's always been Eva. Yet here she was, standing beside him, draped in an elegant white gown worth more than her father's entire failed business. The diamond ring on her finger felt heavy, like a shackle. The ceremony was cold, efficient, just like Damian. He slipped the ring onto her finger with practiced ease. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, his lips barely brushed against hers. It was the kind of kiss given to a stranger, not a bride. The guests, business tycoons, politicians, and elite socialites, clapped politely. No warmth, no love, just an exchange of pleasantries. And then Eva arrived late. Her twin sister swept into the church in a deep emerald dress that clung to her frame, turning heads effortlessly. Eva had always been the wild one, the beautiful one, the kind of person who could make anyone fall for her without trying. But Lena wasn't looking at the guests' reactions. She was looking at Damian. His entire posture shifted. His grip on Lena's hand stiffened. For the first time that day, he looked alive. His piercing blue eyes followed Eva's every step down the aisle, darkening with something Lena couldn't name, but she knew it wasn't right. The reception was no better. Damian was polite, almost mechanical with Lena, but when Eva was near, his entire demeanor changed. He laughed. He smiled. He watched her. Lena wasn't the only one who noticed. "Strange husband you've got there," a voice murmured. Lena turned to see James Holloway, Damian's right-hand man, swirling a glass of bourbon. He was sharp, observant, and unlike Damian, wore his emotions like a badge. "What do you mean?" Lena asked, playing dumb. James smirked. "He's been looking at Eva like a starving man at a feast. Not exactly what you want to see on your wedding day, huh?" Lena's stomach twisted, but she forced a smile. "You're mistaken." James gave her a knowing look, but said nothing more. Later that night, as Lena tried to shake off the unease, she returned to their honeymoon suite. The massive penthouse was luxurious but cold, just like her husband. Damian was already inside, pouring himself a drink. "I had a gift made for you," he said without emotion, handing her a small box. Lena hesitated before opening it. Inside was an intricate silver locket. She traced her fingers over the delicate metal, opening it with a soft click, only to find Eva's picture inside. The locket wasn't for her. It had been meant for Eva all along. Chapter 3: The Wife Who Wasn't Wanted. The silver locket burned in Lena's palm. The delicate engraving, the weight of it, it should have been romantic, but the face staring back at her from inside wasn't her own. It was Eva's. Lena's breath hitched. She closed the locket carefully, composing herself before glancing up at Damian Blackwood, who was already pouring himself another drink. You don't like it? His voice was smooth, indifferent. Lena forced a smile, willing her hands not to tremble. It's unexpected. Damian merely shrugged, sipping his whiskey. Keep it. And just like that, he turned his back on her. Lena had prepared herself for a loveless marriage. She had accepted that this was a transaction, nothing more. But she hadn't expected to feel so invisible. Days turned into weeks, and she quickly realized what she was to Damian, a placeholder. Their interactions were stiff and businesslike. At the Blackwood estate, Damian treated her more like a guest than a wife. The house staff barely acknowledged her presence, taking their cues from their employer. But worst of all, he never touched her. Not a single kiss, not a single intimate moment. Nothing. The bed in their grand bedroom remained untouched. Damian slept in his study, claiming he had work. And Lena? She lay awake every night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why she felt like a stranger in her own marriage. Because you were never meant to be his wife, a dark voice in her head whispered. Eva was. The first time she caught him staring, it was subtle. She had walked into his office at home, intending to ask him about an upcoming charity event they had to attend together. But Damian wasn't looking at her. He was standing behind his desk, his phone in hand, staring at a photograph on the screen. His thumb hovered over it, as if debating whether to touch it. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs when she got a glimpse. Eva. She forced her voice to remain steady. What are you looking at? Damian barely blinked. He turned the phone over, face down. Nothing important. Lena bit her lip, keeping her suspicions to herself. But after that, she started paying attention. He never asked her about herself, but always asked about Eva. Whenever Eva's name came up in conversation, his fingers twitched, as if suppressing a reaction. At a business gala, he had been indifferent to Lena's gown until he saw Eva's. That was the first time he truly smiled that night. Lena wasn't imagining things. She knew obsession when she saw it, and Damian was obsessed with her twin. The mansion felt too big, too empty at night. Lena had been restless, wandering the halls when she heard voices near the garden. One of them was Damian's. The other, Eva. Lena's stomach dropped. She moved closer, careful not to make a sound. I shouldn't be here. Eva's voice trembled. Lena will... She won't know. Damian cut in. His voice was low, controlled. You don't have to be afraid of me. A beat of silence. You should never have married her. Eva's voice was sharper now. She's not part of this. Lena's hands clenched into fists. Not part of what? Damian let out a slow breath. You and I both know why I did. Lena felt something inside her shatter. She wanted to step out, to confront them, to demand the truth, but Eva's expression stopped her. Through the dim glow of the garden lights, Lena saw her sister's face. And for the first time, Eva didn't look confident. She looked afraid. Lena realizes Eva isn't just avoiding her, she's hiding something, and Damian knows what it is. Chapter 4, The Past That Haunts. Lena didn't sleep that night. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the hushed conversation between Damian and Eva over and over again. You should never have married her. She's not part of this. You and I both know why I did. Every word felt like a knife, twisting deeper into her gut. Eva wasn't just avoiding her. She was afraid. But of what? Or worse, of who? Lena needed answers, and if her sister wouldn't give them, she'd find them herself. Lena started searching the mansion. The estate was massive, filled with rooms she had never even stepped foot in. But Damian had one rule: his private study was off limits, which meant, of course, that was where she needed to go. That night, when Damian left for a business dinner, Lena crept downstairs and tried the door. Locked. She gritted her teeth and pulled a hairpin from her bun, twisting it into the keyhole. She had learned how to do this from Eva back when they were kids sneaking into their parents' liquor cabinet. Click. The door swung open. The room smelled of expensive cologne and whiskey. Bookshelves lined the walls, but what drew Lena's attention was the desk. She rifled through the drawers, her hands shaking. Contracts, legal documents, business reports, ads. Then she found it. A hidden drawer. Lena pried it open and pulled out a stack of photographs. The first few were recent. Eva at social events, Eva laughing at a cafe, Eva walking through town. Why did he have these? But then she reached the older ones. Eva, 10 years younger, standing beside another woman. She recognized the woman instantly. Annabelle Grayson, Damian's ex-fiancée. the woman who had vanished without a trace. Lena's pulse pounded as she flipped through the pictures. Some were taken at college parties, others in private moments. Damian wasn't in any of them, but Eva was. Eva knew Annabelle. Lena's world tilted. Eva had never mentioned her, not once. Then, at the bottom of the stack, she found something even worse. A news clipping. Police still have no leads on the disappearance of Annabelle Grayson, last seen leaving a party hosted by close friends. Authorities believe she may have been taken, though no official suspect has been named. Beneath it, scrawled in pen, was a single name: Eva Carter. Lena clutched the papers, her heart racing. Had Damian married her because of this? Because of Eva? The door creaked open behind her. Lena spun, her breath catching. Damian stood in the doorway. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were dark, calculating. "You shouldn't be in here," he said quietly. Lena swallowed hard. "What is this?" She held up the photographs, the article. "Why do you have these?" Damian didn't move. "Because," he said slowly, "I know the truth about your sister." The room felt too small, too suffocating. What truth? He stepped closer, his presence unnerving. "Eva didn't just know Annabelle," he murmured. "She was the last person seen with her before she disappeared." Lena felt the blood drain from her face. Damian's lips curled into something resembling a smirk. "You're not the only one keeping secrets, Mrs. Blackwood. Damian didn't just marry Lena to get to Eva. He married her because he believes Eva had something to do with his fiancée's disappearance.